But I think as seeing the younger Westies kind of navigate what it looks like when your leader's starting to not lead as well.
Boy, that's such a weird perspective.
It's just a controversial take, but yeah.
He just killed a made man. The Italians outnumber us about 100 to 1. They're gonna come after us with everything they got. And the feds are paying a lot of attention. Watch your back.
I think it's, there's a power structure in place that I've been at the top of, Eamon Sweeney has been at the top of for a while. So maintaining control is a primary motivator for Eamon and I think the older Westies, whereas that's your cue to say something super smart.
No, I know. I was
about the younger Westies.
What I just seeing that the person who has been in control and been their kind of carer in a lot of ways for most of their life, that his grip on that control might be slipping, and how to navigate losing that. Well, maybe, in my opinion, maybe, or maybe not. But I think as seeing the younger Westies kind of navigate what it looks like when your leader's starting to not lead as well.
Boy, that's such a weird perspective.
It's just a controversial take, but yeah.
No, I don't. No, I think there's plenty of villains.
Sure.
Right. There's like everybody else is a villain. The Westies is this very tight, obviously there are, little fractures as there are within any group, but I think it's overall, it's a very much us against the world kind of mentality that this small, ferocious group had.
Yeah, there's one in the first episode where Jimmy is told by Eamon to go and complete a task, a violent task. And Jimmy decides to kind of improvise around that, kind of interpretive jazz with the command he's been given. And that for me was a real window into the way that Jimmy thought, because it's basically he was told to do a very specific thing and he's gone, I'm going to find a kinder way to do that and achieve the same result.
Whereas Eamon is more like, you have the music right in front of you, play those notes.
Yes.
And Jimmy's like, improvising. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Birdie is the catalyst for that, because what she does is she brings to attention the fact that his son is being drawn into Sweeney's world. They're estranged. They don't see each other. But suddenly he sees his son potentially in peril. And I think there's an awakening there. He's never going to be Father of the Year, but there's an awakening. And in the process of that awakening, there's a forced kind of inner reflection that Keenan doesn't want to deal with, because he is so filled with self-loathing and self-hatred. But I think that what then becomes his focus is to try to save his son, because it's too late for him.
Well, I think what you have to do with these mob shows, as you said it, there have been tons of mob shows set in New York, tons of mob shows about the Italian mafia. And so right away, we had to try to distinguish this from other shows that had been made of a similar ilk. And so focusing on the Westies was the first order of business. And the Westies were, if the Italians were organized crime, the Westies were disorganized crime. It was 20-odd guys who were drinking and laughing and stealing and murdering. And so we wanted to try to represent them in an underdog type of way. And also within the Westies group themselves, in order to create conflict, we create a sort of generational divide between the older Westies and the younger Westies. And that plays out over the course of the season. So that was the idea from the very beginning, to try to distinguish it from other things you'd seen before.
And, Chris and I wanted to create characters that both the audience and us can fall in love with on some level. the Westies distinguished themselves. They were Irish. They had a great sense of humor. They're passionate. They're fighting. They're bickering. They're tribal. They're together. They're devoted to each other. They're underdogs. So we kind of wanted to lean into the fun of creating those types of characters. At the heart of it is a generational conflict. It's also the Javits Center is a flashpoint in the history of New York City. It had just come out of default and bankruptcy. The Javits Center on the Irish turf was the biggest construction project in the history of New York. All that money was going to change everything. The neighborhood was going to push the Irish out. It was going to put the eyes of the cops on the whole area and crack down on the Italian mob and the Irish mob. So all of that sea change is both personal and in socioeconomic was part of our intention.